What has been a really great day of exciting panels with great guests, and very honoured to be presenting the last panel of the day. Definitely a challenging one. I think all three of us had experiences either when it comes to working with artists or ourselves, working with challenges in different markets, and also understanding transferability between skills, between different industries. So I think you all know me very well, so I'm going to be quiet for this next few minutes to let my wonderful guests introduce themselves. So I'll hand it first over to Dana for you to give us a little introduction.
Thank you very much. Hi everyone, my name is Dana Fakhoury. I'm a music producer, a live electronic performer, and a DJ. I'm originally from Lebanon, currently based in Dubai, and I work with the Arabic market, recently the more Swana market, so with North Africa included, and the European and Canadian market. On to you.
Thank you, Dana. Hello, everyone. My name is Benson Zhang. I'm an entrepreneur. We launched the Chapter 2 Entertainment last year after I graduated from Berklee GMB program. So basically, I originally from China, and then start my music career since 2007 as a radio DJ, then working the international media like Billboard and YouTube Music, and now I'm here. The company based in Madrid. Yeah, nice to meet you guys.
I think it's a great opportunity for me here to sort of see Benson blossom, because I was witness to the birth of Chapter 2. So it's very exciting to be able to be doing this panel together. For those of you, welcome Karl. Can you see us?
Hi.
Hello. So we have our third speaker in the room. So I'm going to pass the mic over to you there. Can you hear us well, Karl?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes, super. So we've just had everybody just giving a brief 1-minute introduction. So if you can do so as well, that'd be great.
Yeah, awesome. I hope everyone's doing well today. Yeah, a little bit about me. Entertainment lawyer first, went to law school here in the States. Went the corporate route a little bit, did a short stint at Bloomberg Law, doing corporate law, large scale, corporate transactions, things of that nature. But it wasn't for me. I just always saw myself more on the artist representation side. So shortly after my stint at Bloomberg, I opened my own law practice, and that's 70% of what I do, negotiating contracts for artists, songwriters, producers, helping them protect their intellectual property, strategic guidance, right? When deals come up, helping them protect their business. And, I have a bunch of clients with a bunch of international accolades. I also rep some small record labels, some pub companies, some not so small pub companies, and some management companies as well. So we're a full service entertainment law firm, and we represent the full gamut. Additionally to that, I co-own a record label and a pub company called Eagle, home to international success Blast. Blast has done songs with Tyga, YG, Ty Dolla $ign, Kendrick Lamar, some of the biggest names in hip hop. We have a publishing partnership with Warner Chappell, and we also have a record partnership with Red Bull. And then lastly, the education space is super important to me. I've taught classes at Drexel University, Rowan University in New Jersey, and I've actually even done some stuff with Berklee. I was a part of the Career Jam last year, so excited to be here.
Well, thank you so much for your introduction, Karl. So for those of you that maybe know me a little less, which are very few faces in here, but I'll just remind everybody in case they forgot. So I actually originally come from the video game space, so that's why I really love this panel context, because I think there are so many skills that are transferable from one industry to another, and even as Karl mentioned, working with different talents from different entertainment spaces, and also managing those people. So for the next sort of 40 minutes, we're going to be chatting about what are the challenges basically around exploring new markets. And then we're going to look at the transferable skills across that. So we're going to have 2 parts of today's presentation. The first part I like to call Music Has No Boundaries part. Okay, so this is where I'm going to direct a few of the questions to Dana and to Benson. I'm going to open with the first one saying, what is the hardest part when, exploring a new market with an artist? And I know we were having coffee just before and already debating, fulling the topic around this, but, what are the biggest challenges? What's the hardest to do when you want to take that step beyond your home market? Benson?
Oh, well, I think the two things. One is find the investors to invest the company. That's the first difficult challenges. And then the second one is what is the artist's objective and what's the opportunity out there to bring artists from one region to another region. For example, like our first clients, her name is Axie from Hong Kong. So I met her at the Great Escape last year when our GMB students came and then to learn how the festivals runs in UK. And we met there. And the first, I think I have to understand the artist's objective. Like if the artist's objective is to break through another market, then we are the right person to talk with. Because if the artists, they say our objective is to maintaining our home-based market, then it's really hard to persuade the artists to break through another market. So the artist's objective is the key. And then actually the artist, she shared with me that she want to break through the European market. So I will say, okay, this is your objective. Then we will break down from the data, your data performance in another region. How is your data performance? And then what kind of the partner you need to help. Then the chapter 2 as an artist consulting company to help you to make a plan. Like if you need a distribution partner or you need more like digital marketing partners or in a collaboration in a A&R side. So I think the understanding the client's objective is a challenge part. Yeah.
So objectives and the money behind the scenes, no? So Dana, what about from your side? Because you're exploring every market, practically.
I love to play everywhere.
How did you start?
I like risks and I like throwing myself out there. And I think music is first and foremost about connectivity. So can you connect to the market and is it relatable to them? And with the way the music is going these days, it's becoming more global. So the language is no longer a barrier, but how are you telling your story and how can we connect with one another? So let's say I want to explore the Canadian market, which I did last year. I thought, will I be playing to a club and that's a normal night out for everyone in Canada, in Toronto basically, or am I playing for the Arabic market? And it so happened that I met a DJ who knew a promoter, so I started connecting and networking, and I ended up by opening for a big DJ that put my name on the market there. And then I got to break through the market easily and for people to hear about me, like my music or not like my music, and see how we can grow a fan base from there and be more relevant. Which brings us to today. I'm going Monday to Canada again to play 2 nights there and then come back. So I think that's it.
I think what both of you are saying is really relevant when it comes to also building these objectives, but a long-term plan. It isn't just going to a market, one shot, and then hoping everything blows up from there, Sort of, how did you know that you were export ready, which is one of my favorite phrases that everybody says, Yeah. When are you ready to explore a market that isn't your own? Sort of, when did you know for yourself? And then Benson, when did you know for the artists you're working with? So.
I never knew I was export ready. I just knew that I wanted to play in some places while I was traveling. I don't like to just travel and do tourism. Mm-hmm. I like to include performance with it. So wherever I go, I always try to get a performance. Mm-hmm. And I study the market, I study the culture, I see what's going on, and I adapt accordingly. And then I also bring my culture with me. And so we do an intercultural set, and it's a nice exchange. And I think this is the key to just go and be export ready, is to be flexible and diverse.
Yeah, flexible, diverse, yet ticking all the boxes of everything you just mentioned there that is really relevant when building that export strategy plan. Benson, what about with your artist? Can we share our conversation before around taking her to a new market, and we had a little debate about whether it was wise or not? Could that be a good example?
Yeah, oh, I mean, that's a very tough process because a lot of artists, they say, okay, we will say in Europe, a lot of like DJs, electronic music DJs, they say, oh, Chapter 2 can bring us to Asia, and we want to just touring. But the thing is, the situation has been changed after COVID, because before, for example, electronic music, 10 years ago, it was the most popular, one of the most popular genres in Asia. And the audiences, they never seen this music performance. So even you are the new and up-and-coming artist, the audiences will give you a chance to see your show, to buy the ticket. However, after 10 years, the genres are always changing. So like after that, hip-hop was rising up and K-pop. And also because of the COVID, the club, the venue owners, they struggling about surviving. So like, for example, some famous club, they have 5 days EDM shows, but now maybe only 2 days for EDM shows. And what is the rest of 3 days? Is hip-hop shows, the local countries labels, hip-hop shows, stand-up comedies, K-pop shows. So it's more like more diverse. It's really hard. You say you can just bring up-and-coming artists to another region by not managing their streaming numbers, because most of the the publisher and distributions, they say we can distribute your music for worldwide, but in the reality, no. Maybe it's only one region. They say Spotify is the biggest one, yes, but not as big in Asia. We talk about China, Japan, or Korea. So they use their own country-based digital streaming platform. So how we can managing this is challenging, and also we need to sit down to analyze if your music is not even available in that country, then the first, we need to develop to work with the distributor to make your music available. Yeah.
But what about this concept of export ready, you know? Because I know so many artists from other countries or other continents that say, I want to break Europe. And I always say, well, Europe's a very big market with lots of different countries and lots of different languages. So first of all, what you need to do is be country specific. You need to be analyzing your data. What's the best choice? And this is the conversation we were having before about one of the artists that you're working with that has an opportunity to come to Spain. And what we were saying, well, for that type of music, will it work in the Spanish market? And this is one of the conversations where we have, and linked back to what we mentioned before of just going somewhere for the sake of it, because then we can say, oh, we have Spain on our list, or actually developing a strategy around it, like Dana mentioned, you know, building Canada, now going back to Canada on Monday, and creating a long-term story, you know. I don't know if you've got any reflections on that, on this export-ready topic and exploring new markets. Karl, I don't know if you want to add anything in there. I know it wasn't planned on our agenda, but feel free to jump in if you want.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think what the other panelists said is spot on. And I would say I had the chance to tour with an artist at the end of last year in Australia, which was a new market for him. But, you know, there obviously wasn't the language barrier. You know, music is so much more globalized these days from a rhythmic standpoint, from what people are making. Language still plays somewhat of a factor. And I think early on, you know, whether it be the UK if you're an American artist, whether it be Australia if you're an American artist, it does make some sense maybe to sort of start planting seeds in those markets first before you get into the Asias and some of the other bigger markets in the world. So the globalized market definitely leads for so much collaboration. You know, you could make music from, you know, New Jersey all the way to Hong Kong by sending files and getting them back and releasing it all. And I think that leads to so much collaboration on the ground floor. But I think some of those hurdles from the past are still there. I don't want to completely overlook them. And I think really about one of the other panelists said earlier is really just about digging into other cultures and really, really studying and the genres that exist and finding healthy collaboration.
Thanks. No, that's a really, really valuable input as well. On that note, I'm really curious from your perspective, Dana, because obviously where you're based, you're starting from scratch. How do you build a market when nothing existed before almost? And how have you overcome that challenge and developed yourself there in Dubai?
So Dubai is an emerging market in music. Yeah. So the infrastructure is not there 100% yet. So coming from Spain directly to Dubai was a cultural shock, although I'm an Arab at the end of the day. But having learned all the rules and about publishing and about like your mechanical rights and royalties and all of that, and didn't yet exist there, it was hard to really enter the market, and it didn't really have the platforms for us yet, and still growing. But I think networking and showing up a lot and people seeing your face and talking to a lot of people and telling them who you are, what you do, and insisting and persisting helps you break through the market with time. And not email and don't go on social media and try to break from there. Just really show up with a presentation at the door of the studio, at the door at the club. Insist on meeting with the manager, insist on meeting with the owner, tell them your story, and then say it again and again and again, until at some point they're gonna be like, this woman won't go away, let's give her a shot. And I think that's how I got what I wanted. I just kept poking.
Yeah,
I was annoying.
Well, I think that's definitely one of the tips we can all give, like across from all four of us here. From an artist management perspective, is the key skill is patience. And I think we can totally agree. Patience and perseverance when it comes to, really getting your message across. So thank you for that. And now I want to bring it to sort of the other areas of the entertainment business, because I know from my personal experience moving from the video game space in marketing to a marketing space and management area within music, I initially thought, will this be challenging? Can I apply the same marketing trends, techniques, and methodologies? And you can. So I was able to witness firsthand that there are things that are transferable from one entertainment industry to another. So I'm curious to hear your perspective on this, Karl. How do you feel working in different entertainment areas and sectors?
Yeah, I think you're spot on in saying that the principles and the tools definitely sort of apply to other areas in entertainment, right? I mean, in America, I could say there's so much synergy between music and sports and video games now. So many different collaborations on the video game front have broken artists, have broken songs. FIFA, FIFA's been one of those games where if you're an artist and you get a placement on FIFA, it just helps you break that record. And so there's so many different sort of community engagement methods that live across those spaces, and as representation across those spaces, you realize like video games is that industry just moving very, very fast, but there's so much cross marketing opportunities between those industries that it could lead to a ton of success. So when you're building, whether you're building an athlete's profile or a musician's profile or a gamer's profile, a lot of those foundational marketing concepts, right? Whether it be guerrilla marketing, whether it be staying authentic on social, whether it be different community engagement tactics, it's all going to be sort of rooted in the same principles. There are going to be differences, but I think if you've learned to do it in one industry, you could probably do it in the next industry, and then more importantly, your connections in whatever industry you're in are going to help you in that other industry. As someone who's, I would say, 70% primarily focused in music, as I've been trying to get into sports and video games a lot more, and have been able to, they've been trying to reach into my sort of Rolodex in music, and it's led to a bunch of synergy and opportunities for my clients on the music side, and also for my clients on the sports side.
So what do you think are some of the ways that, like, the principles of audience engagement, fan loyalty in the music industry can be adapted and applied to other entertainment spaces?
Yeah, I mean, the buzzword is super fans right now, right? So everybody's trying to get to those super fans. And I think really what I see musicians doing very, very well is staying engaged across social media. So many people, I would say, have broken, especially post-pandemic, from social, right? From TikTok or whatever the social platform is. But they're being consistent, right? They're consistently promoting their songs, they're continuously networking across those platforms, and they're trying unique strategies to break music. And I think if you're building in the sports and gaming sector, you need content. You need to stay consistent with your content. It's just a different game. You clearly need to do in-person stuff, but I think your content has to be consistent across the board, whether you're an athlete, whether you're an artist, whether you are a gamer. So I think consistency is the first principle, and mostly consistency online. And then I would say trying to get to those super fans, right? Once you sort of have community, like how do you keep super serving that super fan base, right? What I mean by super fan is the people who are going to buy your tickets, the people who are going to spend $50 on a merch bundle, that are going to fly to come see you. How do you keep super serving that base and growing that base? Because those are going to be your most loyal people, and those are going to be some of the people that make you sort of break through. So I think consistency with content and just super serving and growing that super fan base.
Mm-hmm. Really relevant, arguments that you're mentioning there. I'm just curious to sort of, first of all, from Benson's perspective, working with artists and then developing in different countries, where does the audience analysis fit in,
Well, yeah. So I can share with you one thing, because some of the conversation, like similar, like when I talk to some clients from EDM scenes, because we say, because some of the European DJ, our clients, they say, 10 years ago, we went to China for the tour. Why not? We can't coming back. I say that age group, when you came to China or Asia for the tour, those young kids are 20, and now they are 30 something. So they moved to the family. And those kids, you trying to target from 10 years old to 20. And that kids, that generation, they grew up in the social media with TikTok, or whatever, and they listen music through TikTok viral. So if your song's not becoming like a viral, they don't even know you. So the whole fundamental audiences are changing. Mm-hmm. So to answer these questions, we have to understand who is your audience right now in another countries. If again, your distribution...
And if you actually have one,
yeah.
Because that's also another mistake, that sometimes you just go to a country for the sake of it, and actually you'll have two people in the room because you didn't look at your data. And that's why I'm looking at Alex here. You need to analyze your data to make the right strategic decisions there. So you have to build it and really understand who is listening to you. Segment those artists. How can you best engage with it? I'm actually curious in Dana's case, how have you built your audience over time?
I think one, through self-release, and also a lot of collaborations. Mm-hmm. But this is where data gets tricky, because you start getting other artists' data mixed with yours, and you don't know what's your data anymore. And the more you work with different genres, different language, the countries are different. So my latest release was an Egyptian remix. So right now my data is Egypt, but I've never played Egypt. But maybe I should look into it.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. I mean, you should.
And Egypt is booming. It has a great electronic scene as well. But I've still enjoyed playing Canada and France, and I'm trying to reach into Amsterdam at the moment. Mm-hmm. And I went from not having it on my top 10 listener to having now Netherlands in the top 10 listeners. Mm-hmm. So data does play a key into where you're going, how you're networking, and who's going to show up, who's not.
Yeah, and then I think it's about building that plan around that data. Because, for example, I was working with an artist that were originally from Austria, and they spotted that Spain was 6th in their listeners on Spotify. Now, they actually had a really interesting argument because one of them was actually from Barcelona and the other one was from Austria. So I worked with them to build the Spanish market. Now, that's a really, clever choice because they said, Grace, our goal between now and next year is we want to play at Primavera.
Yeah.
That's your homework. And I'm like, I can't guarantee that. We're going to try and build the Spanish market for you, and let's see what comes along. Because, as we know, as artist managers, as PR, you can never guarantee results when it comes to this. But by building and working with the right people and getting their name out there in front of the right people, we did get there in the end. But that was thanks to doing lots of work with Mondo Sonoro, one of the great medias here, doing pre-releases, having their music even on MTV in Spain, getting people talking about them to make a relevant story so that when they were performing at Primavera, which they did last year, we got there in the end, people were actually coming to see them because they'd connected in the same way that Dana and Karl had mentioned with other artists from that region. Exactly. They haven't done any collaborations, but they're building networks with artists from the hometown and saying, hey, whenever we organize a concert, let's do a joint tour together and create an opportunity. So they already knew that band would come to that show in Barcelona because they live in Barcelona. So jumping back onto sort of the key transferable skills conversation we touched on earlier, Karl, I'd like us to revisit that and just understand what are the transferable skills that you apply in one industry to another entertainment industry?
Yeah, so I think, working in sports, sports has a lot more set rules than I think the music industry does. Like, right, if you're a player, you have a collective bargaining agreement, right? So there's rules about the type of contract you can get. There are rules about how much your agent can get. There are rules about all that sort of stuff, right? So I would just say, basketball, for example, the NBA, if I'm working with a client in that space, there are just so many set rules you have to follow. I think in the music business, the beauty and the curse is the barrier of entry is just lower, right? Like you could have a friend who's really, really good in music, and he lives on your street, and he says, hey, I need some help, and all of a sudden you're a manager, right? And so the barrier of entry is definitely lower in music. However, I think a lot of the rules that can be applied in sports in terms of the type of contracts you do, the type of business that you do, the way you sort of negotiate against the league, right? And then the players negotiate against the league a lot, and they create a collective bargain agreement. I'm not saying that's never going to happen in music, where artists sort of have a collective bargain agreement with the record labels, but I think the first thing that's transferable is just the way you bargain. I think collectively there's so much more power in artists coming together and bargaining against some of the bigger powers that be. And you see it across other industries, and I think sports does it really, really well. They come together and they bargain, and that bargaining power amongst 300, 500, 1,000 players is much stronger than one or two artists coming to the table. So I think just trying to help sort of my clients and the people I work with in music sort of understand the power of sort of coming together to legislate and to affect change, because you look across the industry, there are a lot of problems that still need to be solved, right? Whether it be streaming payouts, just transparency with accounting and how royalties are paid, why there's always such a backlog, and, as it relates to publishing, songs are, at radio, you don't get that money for 2 periods later. So I think there's just a lot of issues that need to be addressed. And I think other industries sort of, the skills that they have are they bargain together. So I'm just trying to help people bargain together. And then from a marketing standpoint, I think what the music industry does better than any other industry is sort of the responsibility in terms of super serving and creating content and being consistent. Like, again, if you're an athlete, whether you're, a big soccer player or a basketball player, a lot of your sort of fame or your sort of community is tied up in where you're playing at the moment, whether it be Real Madrid or Arsenal or all these other stuff. So, that's really good, right? When you're on those teams, your jersey selling. But what can you do personally to sort of help build your brand outside of maybe where you're playing football? And I think, musicians do that very, very well, right? Whether it be, the cross collaborations between like, skin companies like Fenty. You go on TV right now and there's 1,000 different artists sort of creating product, marketing product, and sort of keeping themselves relevant. So I think the second skill that I try to apply from the music industry to the actual sports industry is just the idea of actually building your brand in a way that is just wide. There's so much width, I think, what comes with with an artist.
Thank you for your input there, Karl. That was really, really valuable. And now sort of passing on to the third section now, let's say, of the conversation, which is the skills in representation section that we've called it here. Could you give any recommendations when you are going to that new market and you are looking to build that audience, sort of when it comes to building teams in a new territory? Feel free to jump in, whoever feels like attacking this one first, Sort of, I don't know whether you're building a local team, maybe here in Europe for artists that you're exporting, or can you talk about anything around what strategies you use to choose the right partners in different markets?
Okay. So the chapter 2 is willing to work with anybody, any genre of the artist. So right now, like for example, we are helping some classical musicians to plan their tour in Asia. So the first of the first, we need to find the local promoters because they are the buyers. So their feedback is the key. If because most of the European classic like artists nowadays, our Asian-based promoters first things ask us like, what is his data looks like? We say for the classic music, say yeah. So they go back to check and they say, sorry, we don't have records. We don't have any data because they are so new. So no, I'll say, and then because this is the kind of new things we learn from the market because those promoters' feedback are very important. If the promoters think this thing's not going to work, then we have to work in a different way. So finding the local team is the key. So I'm saying the local team is not like you random find the people who speak the local languages is your local team. Is to find the local person who are experienced in that booking or the promoting industry for many years, and the reputations, you asked for the peoples and say, okay, this is a trusted person. Then we go and talk and then to trying to build up the representative in that countries. Yeah.
And Dana, have you developed or worked with any teams in the different markets that you've been
Yeah, so
working in?
for Canada, I do have promoters I work with closely there, and also artists. We help each other out. So once you do a good job and you're respecting your fellow artists who you're playing before or after, and you respect the etiquette of playing, they actually recommend you for other nights. And so you start building this good community of people you want to trust, you want to work with, and it's authentic, it's respectable. But definitely it grows organically. It's not like, oh, these are the promoters I want to work with. No, it has to, it's kind of like becoming friends. We meet, we like each other, okay, we're going to be friends. It's, okay, we meet, we're going to work together. Because we see eye to eye and we have the same vision of where we want to go with this show or where we want to go for the next year or the year after that. And definitely other artists help you more than just one promoter. And if you do a good job with both of them, they will both recommend you to a different market sometimes or just to a different night in the same city.
And how did you initially connect with that promoter for the first time?
From a DJ.
Okay.
I Googled nightlife in Toronto. I found a name that looked familiar. I reached out. We had a drink. We had a good time. He's like, I'm going to introduce you to everyone. And it was just as simple as that. I got lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I don't know if you've got any tips or recommendations, Karl, when it comes to, you know, building teams globally to support you on these international tours.
Yeah, I have done sort of tours that have gone to new markets for my clients, but a lot of that stuff again was relying on the locals who are maybe even fans of that artist, right? Like I think it's easy if you know, again, like, you know, for reference, you know, I have a client named Blast, and you know, we did pretty much most of the top European markets, and you know, yeah, we just met a lot of people on the ground floor, but he had a lot of real fans there already. So, you know, it wasn't like he was coming ground floor. We were also able to sort of connect with other artists, right? Like we were in the studio like before or after shows with some of the top local people, and we really just kind of looked on Spotify, right? Like, you know, who's the, you know, top 10 hip hop artists in France, and kind of, you know, sort of used our connections to sort of reach out and just got into the studio with them and maybe tried to bring them out to the show. And then, you know, once you sort of meet, you know, the who's who in that sort of particular industry, and the genre focus for us was, you know, hip hop and R&B, we were able to sort of navigate a lot. So I think, you know, we didn't go out to those markets until there was already a lot of demand. And then once we sort of wanted to sort of build even more in that market, we just connected. We just did our research, dug in, and got in the studio with artists who, you know, were hot or, you know, attractive in that region, sort of from a music standpoint, and it just kind of grew from there.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid tip you gave there around doing your research and not going too soon. Benson, you wanted to share something?
Yeah, I want to say also thanks to the Berklee Global Alumni Network. So we benefit to find the different local partners through Berklee networks. For example, like in Miami, when I came to Miami for the Billboard Latin Music Week, so we met a lot of like alumni who based in Miami, and now they are sort of our chapter 2's local partners in US for the Latino market.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's another really valuable tip from this conference, and I could talk about it for another hour. It's the power of networking in the music industry alone, you know, because when it's authentic, when it's organic, when it's real, is when the best results come out, and exploring these opportunities. So before jumping into questions, I wanted to end with this last one directed to each of you. You know, what advice would you give to any artists in the room, any managers in the room, or, you know, those wanting to start their own company in the room and looking to expand internationally with their roster of artists or themselves as an artist? So, Dana, maybe I'll start with you.
Oof, that's a tough one. A lot of pressure. I'd say the only thing that taught me is failing. So fail as much as possible and then grow from there, because you're never gonna grow or learn how to deal with something. Yeah, and keep going. You'll have some dark times, but this is when you'll meet the best kind of people who will pull you through. And yeah, just follow your passion and be okay with changing path, changing where you thought you'd be going. So I thought I'd just be an electronic performer, and I insisted on it. I ended up being a DJ just because I was open, and that opened more doors. So just be open and accept what's coming your way.
Thank you. Benson?
From the artist consulting way, I would suggest artists to find their investment first, because you need money. You need to spend the money. The investor can be your parents, your partners, or the foundings. Yeah, because a lot of artists, they have their financial support from their parents, which is very important. Don't feel bad about that. Yeah, because yeah, that's a good one. And also find, or if you don't have, maybe find one, or apply for the fundings that your country are offering the artists, or find the investment groups. Because some of the music conference, there are some like investments people coming to the music conference. Maybe the artists should pay attention, maybe do some like networking through those different music conference, and then to find partners who is willing to invest, who is believe in your music. Yeah.
So from your perspective, it's grow your network and source the money behind the scenes.
Financially
now.
grow your network. Yeah.
Carl, what about from your perspective? What advice would you give to everybody in the room?
Yeah, I would say from a representation standpoint, data obviously is important. I think as we've grown into more of a technology-driven industry, data has gotten even more important. So you got to be able to analyze data. But at the end of the day, this is music, man. Some of my most successful clients, sort of, you know, it was my ear. It was just hearing a song or hearing a moment and just believing in that music, in that person. So some of we know the tangible stuff, right? You know, what your monthly listeners got to look like, and your YouTube views and people who buy tickets and all that sort of stuff. But I think even before then, you have to have, I think you got to sort of do your diligence and become a student of the game, but you got to trust your musical gut too, because there's some times where the data isn't going to support what your thoughts are and what your beliefs are, but it's going to pay the long term. That's where you really win. That's where you really get those sort of clients and those opportunities where no one else saw it, but you did. And I think sometimes you gotta trust the process as it relates to that.
Thank you so much for that. So I'm just going to open the floor now to questions before we wrap up.
I just want to know where you find those parents.
That's God plan. That's a God plan.
Oh, sorry. You talked about investment. What would you say is the minimum investment that you would need to get started as an artist?
Depends on your objectives.
Yes, to slowly grow a following without having one at all currently.
Well, really depends on your objective. Because can I understand your background a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, I have an album that I want to record, and I spent the last 5 years growing an e-commerce business to fund it. And so that's been doing pretty well, so I have this idea. But I know nothing about the marketing side of music, and I'm trying to learn about it, which is why I'm here. But anyway, I have the money to maybe make the actual music, but on the marketing side of things, even just to start even locally in Spain, for example, or what does it take to find a promoter? I'm very green and I have no idea.
Yeah.
Or sorry, a marketing manager. Yeah.
You're my clients. You're my clients.
Watch out, Benson's on the hustle here.
Okay.
So basically, when we get in touch with our clients, so we're trying to understand their objective first, because objectives decide everything. So like for your case, we will suggest you to talk to the labels or the digital marketing company based in Spain, and then ask them the quotation. Then you will have a better idea about how much you're going to spend. And then you take it double, maybe that's the first round of the budget that you need. Yeah.
So like you're saying finding a label that you would pay to promote it for you in a way, because I don't need a label to help me make the music. I have the funds for that, but in a way the label would do the marketing, and I would ask them the quote to help me with that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean that's a way to help you to understand like how much you need. But I think nowadays every single artist is an entrepreneur. Like. You don't need a label. You can just do it by yourself. But the question is, how are you doing that? You can shop around for the distributors and publishers to get a basic idea. Then you can sit down, like calculate a little bit about what they give you the feedback, how much they're going to charge you, so you have a better idea about that. Yeah. Well, welcome to reach out to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will do.
Just
Thank you.
jump in and I'll pass on to you. So I was just going to add to that question that you had. For me, the first place to start is sort of analyze what are your strengths and weaknesses. What are you able to do? What can you understand? And what are your weaknesses? And where do you need somebody to help you out on that? And then what I would do is sort of what markets or where am I based? Who do I want to be listening to my music? And sort of start building your plan around that and see, do I want to have anything physical for my project? Do I want to do any merchandise? Do I need somebody to support me on the creative side? And it's sort of creating this basic checklist of all the assets that you will need to develop, and then finding the most efficient way to get your music out there. And this is when the strategic decisions come in. Do I need somebody to support me on the PR around the album that you're releasing? And the price is from X to X. Do I want to produce this merchandise? And then the price is from X to X. Do I want to organize any shows to present my music either to media, friends and family, to do all these initial sort of teasing pre-release events. It's all these strategic decisions, because you can do so many things, but it's working out based on what you want to be doing, which would be the wise choice for you, and that'd help you to know where you need to be investing that money beyond just the recording of the music. So,
I wanted to ask, what genre of music? Or no, is it just music? Do you sing? Are you performing?
I'm a singer, but anyway, it's me and my partner. We've been writing for like 5 years, and we've come together and made this album. And I would say kind of maybe closest to Baroque pop, kind of has a lot of symphonic.
So you're actually in the perfect place to promote it. You're at Berklee. Invite your friends over for a night in the house and perform it.
Yeah.
You maybe
and
have a
start
future
there.
manager in the room. Who knows?
Yeah.
Is anybody a manager? I'm interested.
Just let them hear it. Let them tag you on social media.
Yeah.
Let your friends send it to their friends. Like, start very small, just to see what's the reaction, and take it step by step. Don't just go crazy in your head. Just keep it local first, and see how it grows
Organically.
Yeah. I'm actually from Canada, and I've just recently moved to Valencia. And
if you want to get in touch with my promoters, let me know.
And you can get lots of funding in Canada for your musical projects.
Yeah, I know
so
there's so many
research
grants.
that.
Yeah.
So many grants.
Yeah.
So like the money problem's been solved there.
Yeah.
Almost.
Chapter 2 will sponsor you, don't worry.
No, I just want to say a big thank you to that question, because already it's brave to put yourself out there with that question, sort of saying, I'm vulnerable, I don't know the answers, help, and that's the best place you can start, is by being you and real and knowing already, I need somebody to help.
I'm definitely not afraid not to know something. But thank you so much for those answers. They're really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your question.
Anybody else brave?
Hi. I was wondering, when you ask for a grant or you're looking for an investor, what do you show them to make them believe in you? I suppose you have to some sort of create like a pitch or something to sell your stuff, right?
I don't know if, Karl, do you want to take this one? I could see you nodding there, so I didn't know if you wanted to jump on that. I didn't want you to think we didn't include you into this Q&A, so.
No, I could jump in, but was that the end of the question, or is there any more?
Yeah, no, it's just basically what do you show to those investors?
Yeah, I think it all sort of depends on where you are in the process, right? Like if you have good data to show, you got to obviously package that data in a way that is attractive. But if you don't have the data, there are ways I think that you can sort of make yourself an attractive sort of candidate for a grant. And I think one is just, it's like it's raising money for anything else, right? Like making sure your presentation is spot on, you've done your research, your plan is realistic and all that good stuff, and it's combined in like a attractive visual way. That's the first thing. But again, so many people care for data, right? When we're talking about dollars, the grants are a little different, because I think one, those are meant to sort of supplement and help people who maybe don't have all the data in order. But in terms of an investor, they're going to probably want to see some data. They're going to want to know when they're going to get their money back and things like that. So I think the key thing for investors is when they're going to get their money back in their return. And I think grants, you have a lot more flexibility, I think, to sort of tell a story and just put it all together in an attractive way and raise some money.
Just to jump on what Karl was saying there as well, I think the clearer you have your objectives and what you want to achieve as well, if that's perceived by the person that's either reading the grant or you're pitching to, then they're more reassured that you know where you're going, you know? Because if that isn't clear enough, that's already enough to maybe stop reading the grant application form.
Yeah. So you'd say maybe like a grant would be a better idea to, if you don't have like the data yet, and then eventually maybe move to investors?
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously, you know, there are some like different types of investors, like angel, friends and family, people who just might believe in you.
Yeah.
Those people might be willing to invest early. You know, but yeah, I would say in general, like someone who's actually sort of writing a check, who might be a person who might not be like a big institutional investor, I feel like they're gonna, you know, one of the biggest things is when we're gonna get their money back, and you know, what's the big return? Grants, obviously, that's not. There is no return, right? So I think just having that in your mind about where you're getting the money from should help. But yeah, I think grants probably would be the best place for you to start.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Colin? Colin. I was waiting for a Colin question.
I came back just in time. Thank you guys for talking. I'm really curious about talking about global markets and then cross markets in terms of, you know, athletics, gaming, fashion. I'm curious, once you sort of have like a solid ground and you know where you'd like to be, like your home city, maybe a city next to your city, and you feel good in, you know, your local providence, I suppose. I'm curious about like, what does expansion look like? And like when you have the package, sort of like, you know, who are you looking to partner with to sort of like assure like these transitions are done well?
Oh, this question is so difficult. Do you want to go first? No.
I think if you break down the question a little bit, that would be easier for us to
Because I think
answer
there's 3 different
There's like
parts
20
to
questions.
Yeah.
So like, let's say
the first
like,
one was going from your city scaling out, and then it was scaling out to going bigger, and then who'd you take along the way?
yeah, I guess like
More or
when, I
less.
guess scale is essentially the heart of the question. Like, I guess you have to like decide, right? So I'm scaling vertically. So let's say I'm scaling to Atlanta and I started in Miami, or I'm scaling to Paris and I started in London. Like, I'm curious as to like what kind of partnerships you would sort of like assure to make sure like I'm being handled properly and my team is being handled properly by those that are assuring this process.
Well, first, obviously, you'd have to identify that you have some sort of audience there, or even do as what Benson mentioned there, you know, do a bit of homework behind the scenes and ask those key players in those markets, do you like what I'm doing? Could you see it working here? You know, and sort of doing the homework phase. So first audience, second doing your homework before jumping directly and building a team in a place. I don't know, that would be my answer to that bit of your question.
No, definitely. And a lot of conversation goes on, so you don't just directly jump. So you start talking to the promoters or wherever you're going to go, and you talk about conditions. You make sure that this is what you need for you to actually be there fully present and able to perform or do what needs to be done. So it's a long conversation before the show, and you end up there, and it might be up to 6 months or a year in advance sometimes.
Yeah. Really important input, Dana, there. It's patience, and it's a process that will take a long time, but I think the longer you take to do it, the better results you'll have, because you'll be better prepared.
Yeah, because I think all in all, it really depends on the artist's objective. For example, some of the artists, they base in Europe, and they're so fancy to go Japan for a tour, no matter what cost. So that's the artist's objective. Then based on that objective, then we can work on the, like, what kind of the people you need, so how to build up your audiences out there. So I will say it's like that. But all in all, nowadays, every single artist is entrepreneur. So you should build up your own team by yourself, by building up your networking out there, or making friends. Artists talk to artists. You can DM some of the artists that you like. Maybe you can ask them some advice. Starting from that that point. Yeah.
And I think the same way that you use sort of conferences like this, or when we went to FMF or any of the showcase festivals around, it's sort of, you always have to do that homework phase. You don't just go there. You always have to at least prepare, like, who's going to be the interesting people I want to talk to? Who could help me get to one of these objectives? As we keep on saying, you know, even the question that you asked us before, we said first, well, what is your objective? You know, so we can't forget that. So do your research beforehand, definitely.
Yeah, and I can say even about scaling, because I think you even referenced maybe like going from like Miami to Atlanta or something like that. And I think that is, you know, I think that there is so much importance in terms of owning your market, or just at least being a player in your market. You know, where I went to law school and where I'm from is not like the greatest music market in America, but, you know, it's Philadelphia. But, you know, I will say almost every major tour and most indie tours stop by Philly. So I always thought that was a real opportunity to connect with people from outside my region, right? So, and then kind of have them look at me from a different vantage point, whether I was that promoter that night, or I was, you know, sourcing the DJ for an after party for an artist that was coming to my city. And I think you really create those sort of handshake relationships when you own your market, because, you know, everyone comes to these markets, right? Whether it be Memphis, Nashville, Atlanta, you know, people tour all across the globe, and they do one-off shows all across the globe. So if you can be a player, I think wherever you are right now, I think it definitely becomes easier to scale, because, you know, there are those natural synergy points when some of these other artists come to town and some of these other executives come to town. That's the time where I think you could sort of, you know, reach out your hand and sort of show your credibility.
Thank you so much, Karl. And unfortunately, we've run out of time for questions. Sorry, Charlotte. I could see you there. Just to do a quick wrap up, because I think there's been so much valuable advice we've got from our great speakers. So can I have, first of all, a round of applause for Dana, Benson, and Karl?
And to you.
Thank you. And Grace as well.
Grace.
Thank you. And just some really, really valuable, you know, advice that's come from this session. When exploring new markets, it's build a solid plan. It's have clear your goals, and you don't just go there and come back, as we said. There's got to be a story behind. So we've got to build the relevance, take the time to make it, show that it's been worth it, after all fighting for the investment from chapter 2, obviously. No?
Yeah, we pitched like almost 50 investors. We got one. So yeah, just like if people reject you, you just move on. Like,
So
I know
you
it's
need
hard. Yeah.
objectives, you need money, and you need patience and perseverance, and keep on knocking on that door, as Dana said. So hopefully it's been a successful session for you all, even if you just take 1 or 2 pieces of ice. But thank you all, and thanks to the INOCON. Round of applause for the whole team, because it's been an amazing day, and we've still got more tomorrow.
Thank you.